Just a couple of housekeeping rules for those of you that are here. We asked if you would please keep your microphone muted, and if you have questions, please feel free to type them in the chat at any time. I'm going to be monitoring the chat for questions. I will be keeping track of them. We will try our best to answer everyone's question. And if there's an appropriate time when someone is presenting that question makes sense, I will interject and ask that question. So don't worry, we're tracking everything and we want to get to everyone's questions and answer everything you're wondering about. So with that, we're at 4:36, so I'm going to go ahead and kick us off. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and learn more about what we do. My name is Sarah Rogers. I'm the COO at PHNX Development. And I'm going to just take you through kind of this beginning and then I'll pass it off. I'll give you just an overview of what we're going to talk about today. We'll do some introductions. We'll talk to you about non-combustible construction and really what that is legally by code. We have a very special guest today from Fox Blocks, and so you get right from the horse's mouth how all of that works. We're so happy and excited and welcome Randy with us today. We're going to walk you through the PHNX process from start to finish. And then we do have an open Q&A at the end, but like I said, as those questions come in and you think, just type it in the chat. Try to put it publicly in the chat for everyone. So sometimes it happens that you may chat to me directly, that's fine. But there's a lot of people here that have the same questions you have, and so we really encourage you to just be open and ask those questions so that we can get the information out to everyone. With that said, I would like to tell you a little bit about our mission. So we can skip to our mission slide. First of all, if you're here because you lost a home in a fire, I just want to say that we are all very heartbroken at the staggering loss that you're experiencing. And we understand that this is all very overwhelming process. Today's presentation is not going to be complicated. We're going to speak for 20 to 30 minutes. We're going to talk about who we are, what we do, how we do it, what you can expect, and then after that, we're going to ask your questions. Our mission is forever homes for everyone. And through this presentation, I think you'll get a really good idea of what exactly that means. Our homes are accessible, they're affordable, and they're customized. And these homes last for generations. They're not only non-combustible, but they withstand weather, pests, rot, and you're going to learn all about that. So I won't go too much into that. But overall, we are a design build company. So we handle both the architectural design and the construction of the home, and that we streamline this entire process so that you're with one team from start to finish. So it's as easy as we can get. So with that, I am going to pass this over to our CEO, Lori Fisher. She's going to tell you a little bit about herself and introduce the team.
Thank you, Sarah. And that was Sarah, our Chief Operating Officer. And we really have a rock star team, and I'll introduce the team in a little bit here, but a little bit about myself. So I've got about 30 years of experience in architecture, design, and construction. I've been designing and building with ICF, Insulated Concrete Forms, since 2011. I've been supporting fire survivors since 2018. It was back then that, the Tubbs fire in Santa Rosa happened at the end of 2017. And a lot of us were called to action to come up and help in Santa Rosa because they lost 5,000 homes. So I started working with fire survivors up there, and I saw many, many things that broke my heart over and over and over again. And it wasn't enough to just get them their home back, but we really needed to figure out a better way to do it. There were so many challenges. So I've been trained in crisis intervention and trauma-informed care with some volunteer work that I've done with helping survivors of violent crime. So our mission here, as Sarah said, is forever homes for everyone, and we mean it. So we are always going to try and find a solution for you. In most cases, we can. And we've done everything that we can possibly to make this process easier to navigate and a little more stress, a little less stress than your typical build process would be. So I can go on and introduce our team here. We have, like I was saying, we really have a team full of rock stars. You've already met Sarah Rogers, our Chief Operating Officer. Kendra Kettlehut is with us today too. She's our senior designer, and she's got over 20 years of experience in design, and she's got a very solid resume as well. She hails from Chicago, where she worked for Perkins and Will and Gensler. She's had her own practice here in San Diego for about a decade, and she's coming here to help us design these gorgeous homes. And she's already working with quite a few of our clients, and we're really happy working together too. That's a lot of fun. Adam Jill, we have our own private plan checker. He's a certified building official, and he has actually plan checked and approved Phoenix homes. So he is 100% familiar with what we're doing and how to get it approved. So he's going to be our go-to point person. He's already started interfacing with the relevant jurisdictions and talking to people and preparing them for the plans that we will be submitting. And so that we expect the permitting process to go more smoothly as well because of that. Andre Noel Chiara is our construction supervisor and quality control. He's not with us today because he's actually on a job site. But you know, if you sign up with us, at some point you will be meeting Andre. He speaks fluent French and Spanish as well as English, and he is a perfectionist. And so he's a very important person on our team. And then our special guest today is Randy Daniels. He's the Commercial Business Development Advisor for the Western United States region for Foxwalks. And I've known Randy for a number of years now, and we're really, really happy to have him here with us. You'll also be meeting our client care director too, if you decide to move forward with us. So we have someone, Carla Arana, who will follow you from day one until you move into your house. And so we make sure that you have continuity at every step of the way. Nothing falls through the cracks. So if we can go to the next slide. And so what is it that we do? We are the only home builder in the United States building wood-free type 1A non-combustible homes. You know, you might have heard people say, you know, because I hear people say, everyone on our team has heard people say this, that, oh, you know, a lot of people are talking about doing that now, you know. No, we're the only ones doing it. We are the only ones doing it. Our homes are entirely wood-free in the structure. What we like to say is the only wood that's in a Phoenix home is wood that you can see, the wood that you can touch. And so, you know, what we're doing that's completely different is we're going by the building code. We're taking the safest, there's 5 construction types in the building code, 1 through 5. 1 and 2 are the only non-combustible building types. The other 3 building types are combustible. And it's important to know that just about, I mean, as far as I know, every single home in the United States is built as type 5. And it, you know, basically what makes it really hard to get the wood out of it's expensive to try to be able to build a single family home without wood. And so it gets really hard. And so contractors just like, let's just build it in wood. Well, not us. We were determined to find a way. And so this way, the building department, the jurisdiction in charge is the one that says, hey, you're non-combustible. And so that's really our point. And, you know, to talk a little bit about the building code too, I think it's important to know, that when the building code was instituted, it was put in place to save lives, primarily from fire, but it was intended to get people out of a building alive. There's nothing in the building code about preserving the structure. And really that was new in 2011 when they started the WUI code updates in the state of California. That was really the first time that we were really looking at just preserving the structure. And so even type 1A, being as safe as it is, it's safe enough for high-rise buildings, it's safe enough for large stadiums that have 60,000 people in it. So it's definitely safe enough for your home. However, it's still not enough. So we understand that you also want to protect your home. So we go even further than type 1A. So there's nothing on the exterior of our home that can ignite. Nothing. It's entirely non-combustible. So the parts of Phoenix that go actually beyond type 1A, we have a patent pending on our long span roof and floor framing system, which is how we eliminate plywood sheathing from the equation, and that's our own proprietary technology there. We have 4-hour rated walls. Type 1A only requires 3 hours. We have 4-hour rated walls. Now, again, that's still not, it's just that they won't ignite. It can be built anywhere, but also, I mean, we go way beyond type 1A in that we're 100% net zero energy, all electric. We have no roof vents. None. So there's no question about, oh, use, protected vents to keep embers from coming in, blowing into your attic. We don't even have to worry about it. We minimize the rest of our roof penetrations down to a couple plumbing vents, and that's about it. Our windows are non-combustible from the exterior. That's something that's really crazy. You can build a type 1A home with vinyl windows. You really can. And I don't think I have to tell you guys what would happen to vinyl in a wildfire. So we go beyond type 1A, and the windows that we use are Sierra Pacific windows. They're aluminum clad, powder coated aluminum, and they have a tempered pane so that if there is a fire outside, as long as your windows are closed, there will be no ember intrusion and there will be no ignition or combustion. And our entire envelope is sealed and rated at more than R30. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the way that we rate insulation. So that's an insulative value. But once again, we go beyond type 1A. Type 1A doesn't require those things. It doesn't require that our entire envelope be sealed and R30, but we go further than that. And so after, I think now is, I think, a good time for Randy Daniels with Fox Blocks to jump in, because Fox Blocks is really one of the most important materials we have in our buildings. In our Phoenix homes, we couldn't do it without Fox Blocks. So take it away.
Thank you, Lori, so much. So what we're talking about is concrete in the middle and foam on each side. And cast in place concrete is one of the most durable, resilient products. It's a reason they go into the foundations and support the whole structure. So imagine that same foundation just rising into the air to the top plate and providing that building envelope. What the trick is, how do you do cast in place concrete walls fast and also incorporate all the insulation the building needs and incorporate the furring studs that interior and exterior finishes can pass into? So on the lower left of your screen, concrete in the middle, and what you may not realize is every 8 inches Fox Blocks delivers an 1.5 inch wide stud, and those studs are high density polypropylene, 100% post-consumer recycled plastic. So it's the milk jug you threw in the container, in the recycled container. We chop it up and put a little carbon black to it, and we make it into a building material. So the growth of the ICF industry, that manufacturing plant you see, that started as a little garage operation in 1946. Old Grandpa Crosby, he started making those little fishing bobbers, and that's our founder. So you know the little red and white plastic fishing bobbers? That's Grandpa. He made those, and it just started to grow. So the only two things that Airlight Box Blocks knows how to do is make recycled polypropylene plastic parts and also mold foam, and that's all an ICF is. It's just recycled polypropylene plastic, and it's the foam panel insulation. So that's that middle slide, by the way, real quick. We started making Fox blocks in 08. 6 years later, we had 4 more plants, and then today's coverage is 20 manufacturing plants. Year over growth for the last 15 years has been right around 20%. So exponential growth in this industry. Michelle, move me on. So I hate to say it, but every time there's a hurricane, every time there's a tornado that destroys a whole town, every time there's a firestorm, we get a certain uptick in business because the structures that are demolished, they're just pickup sticks. When you go tour a firestorm area, it is just heartbreaking, and there's no wood to be found anywhere. All you can see is the foundation slab, which is concrete, and you might see the fireplace, which is often built out of concrete. So there's a reason we put wood in a concrete fireplace. The concrete doesn't burn, the wood burns. So we get an uptick in business because people suddenly realize that they need to be smarter than the first 2 little pigs. That's all it is, right? So these homes you're looking at, they are concrete homes, they're ICF homes, and they are remarkable testaments to the survivability when you use, in conjunction with wonderful design like what Phoenix Homes offers, a solid concrete wall. Solid concrete is the key. And you can do the same thing with cast in place concrete, slip forms, Simon forms, tilt up concrete. You can do all the same thing. We just happen to put a little magic in it, in that we're a faster, lower cost, and we provide furring and installation for finishes. So enough said about that. Move me on. The reason I'm here today is I support the Western U.S., everything west of the Mississippi, in our market segments, federal military applications, due to our ballistics and blast resistance and quiet. We're often specified for Air Force bases because these walls are so quiet. I also handle the educational sector from K through 12 to higher education. I also handle hospitality and megaplex theater and public works, from libraries to police stations to fire stations by the gobs. And then one of the bigger markets is schools. Over 300 ICF schools in the DFW market alone. And what do all those buildings have in common? Type 1A. That's what they all have in common. And what that means is we can deliver a faster, lower cost wall assembly for Type 1A construction. And it all has to do with the engineering and the structural capacity of solid cast in place concrete walls. And that's again, irregardless of how you form that up and how you get it engineered, you are way ahead of the curve if you're just using solid cast in place concrete instead of pickup sticks. Don't be the first 2 little pigs. So next slide. Yeah, and there's a last little exclamation point on ICFs in general. Because we have 155 pounds a cubic foot as a concrete core in the center of the ICF, it becomes a mass wall. And what that means is just heavy and dense. So concrete's really heavy and dense. And then if you capture concrete in 2 5/8 inches of insulation, you create a thermal reservoir. And so the correct language in our industry is, if you were going to build that same junky pickup stick residence, you'd have to get those walls out 20 inches plus and go to an R40 plus rating on them to equal what you're going to get with this magic little thermal reservoir. It's also a very, very tight building envelope, so your air handling equipment needs to be, the tonnage needs to be downsized. And what that also means is less insects, no cavity walls for mold, and all the other crud that can happen in the cavity. And then you're looking at heating, cooling load reductions. Your utility bills will average anywhere between 20% less on a very temperate climate to 50 to 60% less in extreme climates. So that wall assembly right there, it just performs better and better the more the severe the climate is. And I think that's it for me.
I think there's one more slide.
Oh, there is one more slide. Oh, yeah. This is
the most important one.
Slide. I was getting ready to run. Sorry. So what you're looking at is pictures of Phoenix homes with Fox blocks under construction. And all I'm going to say about this is that we are so proud to partner with an effort that can prevent the next tragedy. I mean, I toured Joplin after the huge tornado struck there, and it was just devastation. Actually, it knocked 2 schools down. That's the reason I was there. And I went to the architects and I said, hey guys, we've got a better way to build schools. And they said, sorry, the city council wants us to rebuild these schools as fast as possible. So we're using the existing design. And I was astounded. I just thought it was criminal. The storm shelters that were in there, the previous schools, they were knocked down. They were CMU. So the best thing I think I was able to do was get to the structural engineer and have him put in Fox block storm shelters so the kids will be safe. So here's the thing: hurricane, tornado, flood, fire, storm, in particular, where we're at here in California. It's just an example of we can do better, we can build better, and prevent the heartbreak of complete loss of a home. That is really it for me.
Brandy, will you just talk about earthquakes? We have a lot of people in California curious about
Oh, fantastic. I love that discussion. So the structural engineers that design the concrete walls and the connections to the roof loads and the connections to the foundations, they have to design to the seismic area and the soil conditions wherever that structure is, and particularly in California because of our high seismic zones, as well as in other locations. These walls get engineered with the appropriate rebar schedule, ready mix design, footing connections, and roof load connections that ensure a really earthquake resilient home. And I will say this, in all the earthquakes that have happened, I've been doing this 25 years, and it's funny. You'll go to earthquake, post-earthquake location and go to an ICF home. All the other homes have this horrible twisting, cracking, paint, stucco, drywall, pieces all over. The ICF homes are just kind of pristine. They did better. So earthquake, yes, that's in the same category as the others.
Thanks, Randy.
You bet.
All right, so why is type 1A such a challenge for single-family residential? Well, I think Randy touched on that a lot, and especially I think the story about the schools was really key, because I mean all of us are probably jaws dropping with that story, but it's true. And with every single disaster, with every single tragedy, there's always this like, no, now's not the time to fix it. Now, we have to respond. We have to respond the same way that we always do, because that's all we know. And then there's no progress. So, so Phoenix decided, you know what, we can figure out how to do this. And as I was saying earlier, the biggest challenge in getting, I think, wood out of the system was the the roof sheathing, especially the plywood sheathing in the roof, because we need plywood for lateral stability. And so what we designed is something called the PHNX long span system. And it is a streamlined, you can see it up there in that photo too. So we have a patent pending on this, and it's the same. There's basically 4 components to this system. There's the joist, the bracing, and 2 different types of knife plates. And that is all we need for the roof and the floor assembly. So it goes infinitely faster. And I think, you know, we were just reading an article. I was just reading an article this morning about building in Florida, I think, and they were saying that for the engineered wood trusses for the roof, there was like a 6 to 8 month wait for that. And I've heard of that also here, just in San Diego in general. I know that, you know, we've really got to order those trusses at least 4 or 5 months out, and I can't imagine what that's been, you know, what that's going to become now that we're rebuilding thousands of homes at the same time. So, you know, when, you know, so there's basically, so we save money by streamlining all these things that are normally harder. You know, if you're going to build a concrete and steel home, if you're going to design it the same way that you would design and build a wood home, then yeah, it's going to be more expensive. But what we did with PHNX is that we looked at, wait a second, like Randy was saying, those 6-inch or 8-inch cast in place concrete walls, they can do a lot. They can do an awful lot. We don't need every single wall in the house to be a 6 or 8-inch put in place concrete wall. We need them on the exterior and maybe 1 or 2 beams on the interior, and that's it. And then we designed a system, the long span system. It's long span because we can span up to 32 feet. Our joists can be spaced up to 8 feet on center. So we can frame a roof in a day. We can frame a floor in a day. And then our roof panels, our all-weather insulated panels, go on top of that, and we can lay down our panels in a day. So Michelle, if you could go to the next slide, thanks. And so here we, you know, we basically, you know, break down the schedule. And again, you know, things like schedule and budget are very hard to nail down. You know, it varies per project, but in general, the time that we save, we save in our stucco, in our cladding, we save time in the roof and the floor. And then there's just other things that we save on too, because the job site is so much cleaner and everything's so open and all the trades can work together, because as you saw in that roof framing, there's nothing there. Our roof panels are 5 inches of rigid foam insulation, so we don't have bat insulation. We don't have all the trades trying to drill holes through beams and joists and things. You know, trying to squeak in. We don't have soffits that we need to build down. So all of our equipment fits in the floor, it fits in the roof. So it really does save a lot of time. So Michelle, thank you. And so here we can get into a little bit about the, you know, our actual design process, because I'm sure a lot of you have a lot of questions about that. And I think probably the biggest question that we get is, do you have prepared designs? And yes and no. We've designed a lot of homes so far. So there's designs that we can share with you that we've designed for other people. But in general, this is about you. This is a custom home designed for you. If you prefer to look at some of our previous plans, we're more than happy to do that. If you want to share us a sketch of your previous home, we can do that. If you have some sketches that you've already thought about the way things lay out, you can work with us in that too. But the point is that PHNX is not plan A, plan B, plan C. It's completely unique, full architectural design service, custom tailored for you. And that leads us to our next slide. And both Kendra and I have won awards. We've been published. We have a lot of happy clients, a lot of pretty buildings. And even though, you know, PHNX has only been around for 5 years, you know, we've been around a lot longer than that. I know it's hard to believe, but so no, we've probably got about over 100 years experience on our team. So you know, you're welcome to look at our previous portfolios and talk to our other clients that, you know, pre-Phoenix that we had. But we really are a team of full-on professionals, and we do a lot of 3D. And so it's very easy for you to visualize what your home is going to look like. And let's see. So here's some images. This is work of mine that I did in my private practice prior to Phoenix. And you'll see that home up on the left-hand corner. So we completed that home in 2015. And that's an offset gable. And we do that all day long with Phoenix. So, you know, one thing that I do need to mention, I think, is our roof shape. And because our roof is our innovation, it's the key to how we can build type 1A homes at the same cost or less than a standard build. So we basically have single plane roof shapes. So it's either a shed or an offset gable. And that's pretty much so if you're really into, if it's really important to you to have a Spanish tile roof, or, you know, say like the Jane's Cottages folks in Altadena, you know, with the Tudor, you know, the high pitched roof with the gable, things like that. Phoenix might not be right for you. We're not saying we're right for everybody. We're not the 100 perfect only solution, but we can do mid-century modern California all day long. And our houses really are beautiful. And, you know, and you get the vaulted ceilings and all the natural light and air that you could ever want. So if we can move forward, let's see. Yeah, and just talking about, you know, the streamlined process, basically, you know, this is something that I think gets missed a lot in our industry. And, you know, there's a lot of manufacturers out there like Randy. There's a lot of builders out there. There's a lot of architects out there. But no one sector of the industry is going to solve the problem. You know, Randy can be out there every day, all day, talking about how great Fox Blocks is. But if nobody's going to design with it, then nobody's going to build with it. And even if people want to build with it, that doesn't mean that people are going to design with it. And prior to founding Phoenix, I was actually trying to make these innovations with my own private practice as an architect. And I can't tell you how difficult it was to constantly be searching for the contractor that wasn't going to whine about not being able to do things their way, the way they're always used to. So that's why we realized Phoenix absolutely needed to be a design build firm, because it's the whole process. And when you streamline design, what's happening is you're streamlining construction at the same time. And I realized that it was critical for traumatized fire survivors to have a more streamlined design approach, because designing a home is a lot. It's a lot for somebody who wants to build a new home, but it's even tougher for someone who maybe doesn't want to build a new home, that, you know, it's not really your choice that you're here. So we understand that, and we want to make it as easy to navigate for you as possible. We don't want to hit you with a fire hydrant full of questions and information and data. We're not going to do that to you. So it's step by step by step, and we don't move on to the next step until you're satisfied and you've approved the first step. So I think maybe we can hand it off to Kendra here.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but yeah, the way we design Phoenix, it is not more costly than traditional builds. And the way we have streamlined our process is, we kind of touched on it in a couple of the slides, or at least visually, but what we will do when we first meet with you, we will have a kickoff that is 2 hours And we set aside that time to get to know you in depth, to get to know what you loved about your house, what you want to capture in your new house, what you want strategically for, the types of rooms, the types of bedrooms, the types of bathrooms. So all of that, we will get all of that data like a discovery call for 2 hours. And after we do that, then we'll go back to the drawing board. We will start to lay out your first concept design. And that process, like it says, 6 to 8 weeks in total. We will take a couple weeks, we'll put that together. And then when we meet with you, we will not only have floor plans of the proposed initial design, but we will have 3Ds, as you see in the images to the right of the slide, that will depict exactly what your house. Now, it won't have the materials just yet because we're not that far along in the process, but we will have a very clear architectural vision of what that first initial design is going to look like. And then we will, of course, get your feedback. We've never gotten it the very first time. It's just never happens that way, but we will get hopefully pretty close to what you guys are looking for. And then we'll just tweak and massage, and it'll take about 6 to 8 weeks in total for that initial concept design. Once we get you nailed down to a design that you love for your home, then we will get it into the, before we'll get into the, sorry, you flipped a couple of slides.
Yeah, I think.
We will get into the construction documents, and you don't need to be a part of that. While we're doing that, we'll step away, we'll get that finished, and then we'll submit for permit. Once we submit for permit, after it's been reviewed by our permit person, then we will come back and you will work with me directly with Vision Builder, which is a streamlined interior design process to really not overwhelm you with choice, but to give you plenty of choice. So it will step by step take you through the different palettes we've developed and give you plenty of choice. But again, like I said, it's very not overwhelming. Everything works together. It is very cohesively put together so that all of the options that you have look beautiful. And then we will be doing that while we're waiting for our permit. So once we get the permit in hand, then we will have all the decisions made and it will be easy to just streamline the build.
And then I guess I can talk a little bit about construction. So as we were saying, the construction to build a Phoenix home is much faster than a traditional home. I think maybe let's see, because Michelle, could we show? Am I allowed to share? Could I just share that video of? Because I just got a video today from Andre. Andre is on site at our Yosemite house, and he sent me a video today. And so this is basically after 10 months of construction. We're almost done. And for those of you that have maybe been following us on Instagram and things, I mean, you might remember that and see. And so Michelle, we need you to get your screen back.
Okay, sorry. Let me share it again. Do you want me to go back to the slide, like 19? Sorry, what are you thinking?
21.
No, 21 was on cost. This was
No, I think we went over. Oh, well, yeah, I guess 20 would be good. And you're showing the wrong
oh, hold on. What do you need? What do you need to see? I guess I don't understand what slide you want.
You're presenting your presenter view.
Okay, hold on.
Sorry, folks. We're still getting the hang of the webinar thing, so thank you for your patience.
My controls disappeared. Hold on, I'm sorry.
Are you good? Or, I mean, I can maybe share.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I've got 3 monitors here and let me share here from here first. Okay, are you seeing
There
it?
we go.
Is that
Yeah.
the right one? Okay, sorry about that. Now, which slide are we?
Wait, this one's good. And so, but there's builds in it. So if you could just click, yeah, as we, so, as I was saying, sorry, let me get back on track here. So, as I was saying before, this is a trauma-informed process. And so it's very important to us as we were putting together this process for you, that it is easy to navigate. And so there's no huge commitment up front at all. It's step by step by step. To get started, that concept design process is an hourly process. So you control it. If you want us to design, 3 different versions for you at 3 different budget levels or something, that's fine. We'll do that. It's up to you. You control that process and how fast you want to go. So all we need is a deposit of that $33.75, and that gets us started. And then we don't bill you until we have our first initial design. And then, we do a little bit more work to refine that. We're also talking about your budget, your target budget. Another PHNX innovation is something we call the PHNX Cost Dashboard, which is internal to us. While we're designing, we have in real time, our budget is updating for you. So if you tell us my budget is 1.4, and then you're giving us a wish list that, when we'll talk about this, by the way, in our design kickoff meeting, we're going to talk about your budget. And we're going to tell you, I don't know about that. I don't know if you can get everything you want for that number. Or, maybe that number is really good. Or, your number could probably do this, but maybe not that. And so we talk about that during the very first meeting that we have. And then so we know what that number is when we're designing. And if we're in there designing right off the bat, if we see, this might be a problem, we're going to get in touch with you. Or we'll come to that first design meeting and we'll say, this is what we ran into. And we're going to have ideas for you on how we can get that number down if that's what we need to do. Because budgeting and value engineering is what we call it in the design and construction world when we have to, trim down the budget. With standard construction, the value engineering only happens until after you've gotten all these quotes in and you've signed you're about ready to sign your construction contract. And so you've already had all of the construction documents done, and you've probably already pulled your permits or close to it. So you've already invested a lot of money. And then all of a sudden you have to go back and re-engineer things and redesign things to try to bring that budget down. We don't do that. We do all of that work before you spend all that money. So we do that in the concept design phase. And, we expect that to cost between $9,000 and $15,000. Obviously, it's you that controls it, but it also depends on the size of your project. But at the end of that phase, you will have a very comprehensive concept design set. A lot of that 3D that Kendra was talking about, we're going to actually be walking you through the model in our Zooms, and you're going to have this whole design package. And guess what else you're going to have? You're going to have a cost estimate, a real actual cost estimate. Now, it's not the contract number. Okay, you have to remember this is construction. It's an estimate. But we give you that, and then we don't move forward until you say okay. And then when you're ready to move forward, we move into that pre-construction development phase that Kendra was talking about. Where behind the scenes, we're putting together all of those construction documents and getting ready to get it in for permit. And then Kendra's meeting with you to go over the interiors, the fun stuff. you know, and looking at appliances and plumbing and things like that. But again, we make it very easy for you. It's not an overwhelm. And then once we're ready to submit for permit, there's another check-in. Are you guys still on board? Are you okay? Are you happy? Let's move forward with permit or not, or let's wait, you know? Every single point in the process is a check-in with you. You're in control. That's important to remember. And then construction, yes, we should be able to get done with construction in less than 12 months. With every home we build, we're trying to get it faster and faster. My goal is the homes that we're breaking ground on in Camarillo this fall. My hope is that we can build those homes in 10 months. That's what I'm shooting for. So we'll see, but hopefully, you know. So if we could move forward, Michelle.
Yeah, so the insurance is the next slide after construction. So I think we already talked.
Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, well, I was looking at, what about slide number 21, I think it was.
Okay, yeah, I thought we.
Yeah, that's
covered that.
that's the
Okay.
one I skipped. So this is the literally the $1 million question, right? You know, this is what everybody asks. Well, how much does it cost? How much does it cost? Well, it's hard to say. It's actually impossible to say, because we don't know what we're building. We don't know what you want. And when something doesn't exist, we can't put a price on something that doesn't exist. So that's why we need plans. And even once we have plans, there's no guarantee, but our process ensures that you're going to get the most accurate cost estimate than anyone else. It's because we use the same materials and methods for every home that we build, even though each home is unique and different. We use the same materials and methods. We use box blocks every single time. We use the PHNX Longspan system every single time. We use Sierra Pacific windows every single time. So we know how much those things cost. We know how much they cost to install, and we know how much time they take. So that's how we've streamlined the process, and that we can deliver this home to you in budget and on time. And as we said too, it will not cost more than standard construction. And I think, oh yeah, and so then of course, this is the big kahuna. I think one of the things that we are, our latest relationship, and so we have a lot of strategic partners like Fox Blocks that we're really proud of. But in November, we announced a groundbreaking alliance with Mercury Insurance. So now we are the first and only home builder in the United States to be building homes that are pre-qualified for insurance. And not only pre-qualified for a policy, but at a discount. The first policy that Mercury wrote for Phoenix One, our first Phoenix home in Santa Clarita, they were able to cut their policy by over 40%. And so those folks, I mean, they lost their home in a wildfire. Their entire neighborhood was blacklisted. I mean, it was a 10-second no. It was, what's your address? No. And now those folks are paying less for insurance than they were before the fire. And so Mercury is our strategic partner in this alliance. And, you know, we hope as we move forward that other insurance companies join. And once they understand the difference that PHNX is making, we really are building a better, safer, stronger, more durable home. And I'm pretty sure we're going to have other insurance companies joining in. So maybe just to recap, so all of these challenges, we've knocked them down one by one. Construction time, the volatile material and labor market, because you know the people who build PHNX homes aren't always the same as the people who are building the other homes. So a lot of our contractors are essentially commercial contractors because our methods are more on the commercial side. So we're going to have, I think, a little bit of an easier time getting some of these materials and labor, at least for building our structure, than some of our competitors. And you know, I remember back in Santa Rosa, there was poaching. They were poaching labor from the neighboring job sites. It was pretty brutal. And but we've got contractors that are calling us every week that want to build with us. So you know, I think we're gonna have a pretty unique footing as we move forward and start rebuilding Los Angeles. We manage our own pipeline because we're designing everything. So what we're starting to get into is basically signing up people in cohorts. So what we're telling people now is you know, our last cohort is going to break ground this fall in Camarillo and Ventura. The people that we're signing up now will plan on breaking ground in the spring. And you know, so we organize the whole pipeline. You know, so we know already what our construction schedule is looking like next spring. You know, maximizing availability through our strategic partnerships like Fox Blocks. So you saw that map that Randy showed. We'll get our blocks from Phoenix and they'll get drop shipped right onto the site. Almost everything that goes into a Phoenix is manufactured in the United States. You know, again, I don't want to say anything about the market, who knows, but I just do think that we're in a better position than any other options. And we buy direct. We don't use any middle vendors. We buy direct from Fox Blocks. We buy direct from Sierra Pacific. We buy direct from ViewRail. All of our other suppliers, we buy direct. So we have less people in the mix to, you know, potentially muck things up. And as I mentioned, we have contractors that are contacting us every week. And we're actually planning on having a roundtable next month with interested contractors. So if we do have some contractors here today, let us know and we're going to put you on the list. So we're going to start making plans to strategize building our army because we're going to rebuild Los Angeles the right way. And I think that's it. And so I hope we have some questions.
Yeah. One question. Our family and a few neighbors are set and excited to have the Phoenix team to rebuild our home at a total loss in the November 6th mountain fire. A few other neighbors are exploring RSG panels. What can I share with them to encourage them to explore the Phoenix option? That's from Dawn.
Okay. RSG panels, anytime that you're dealing with a panel, sometimes they call them structural panels, and it's a misnomer. They're not structural. You always have to frame. You always have to frame. They're not structurally, and they aren't load bearing on their own. And the manufacturer might tell you that they are. Just ask them what happens when we cut holes in it, like for windows and doors. And that's when, well, yeah, well, then you're going to have to frame around it, you know. But I think one thing in general to remember when you as a layperson are talking to these manufacturers, and I know that they're out there, I know they've been visiting the burned areas and you've been doing community outreach and welcoming these folks in, and that's great. And I encourage that, and that's really great. But you have to remember that number one, you can't plan on using that product if you don't find an architect and an engineer who's familiar with that product and a contractor who's familiar with the product. So when you start committing yourself to building a home around one product, you're going to have to set up your whole team around that product. Otherwise, it's not going to make it into your project, or it's going to be very costly because they've never used it before, and they're going to make a lot of mistakes. Another thing to remember is that combustible, non-combustible aspect. Not every ICF product is non-combustible. You'd be surprised. There's a lot of products out there that claim they're non-combustible, but they're not approved for non-combustible construction. So you have to ask these manufacturers that visit, is your product approved for non-combustible construction? And if they say yes, ask to see the testing report. Because that's the second one. Chances are they don't have that testing, or they have one report from 5 years ago that's expired. And, you know, the testing is very expensive. And it takes a serious, highly reputable company, you know, like Fox Blocks, that does their testing. That, like, Randy, how much does testing cost? I mean, you don't have to get into numbers, but I mean, it's expensive, right? I mean, it's a huge commitment.
Yeah, they build a 15-foot square section of Fox blocks and pour it solid. And then there's a 10-foot bank of flamethrowers that hit it in hour after hour after hour. And then our engineers, they'll say, okay, after 4 hours, you want to stop? And you know, they're like hot and tired and want to go home, so they go, yeah, stop it at 4 hours. So after they cut off the flamethrowers, and then they hit it with a fire hose, and there's a point load on the top to maintain structural integrity. And then if your wall, you know, survives and no fire enters on the backside and it doesn't crack, it's solid, they'll issue you a 4-hour fire rating for anywhere between 70 to 80K.
That's right. And you have to get that renewed like every 3 years or something, I think.
Yeah, and so we do that with various core sizes, and we could go to 5 hours. It's just, you know, it's our guys going, oh God, 4 hours is better than, you know, what you can get in the industry. We'll just quit here. Because
Right, exactly.
if you don't pass the test, you don't get a rating, and it still costs you 70 to 80K for the fire test. So the only thing I'd caution everybody about is, you know, take a look at, make sure you're getting solid concrete walls out of your ICF, the waffle grid and the post and beam and the outliers. Over the course of the ICF industry, they've never really gotten more than like 2 to 3% market share, and it has to do with you know, just the structural capacity. Solid concrete ICF, that's the castle. That's the third little pig.
I agree. And the other kind of pitfall possible for folks who aren't familiar with construction and design, in, you know, sort of selecting these manufacturer products, you know, it's kind of similar to watching those stupid, you know, pharmaceutical commercials, right? And, you know, they're selling drugs to people that are not doctors. And then you go to your doctor and what about this? Oh no, that's not going to work for you. You know, it's almost the same thing with building products. There's a lot of things, a lot of reasons why, you know, I've chosen Fox Blocks over all the other ICF products that are out there. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, you know, you can ask me offline and I'll totally nerd out with you and talk for an hour about all the different reasons why I prefer Fox Blocks. And they're just really kind of nitpicky, you know, technical stuff. And as a layperson, that might not come up, and you might not understand why it's important to have furring strips every 8 inches as opposed to every 6 inches like all the other products out there. But I can tell you that if you have furring strips every 6 inches in your product, you're going to be adding a week to 2 weeks in your drywall install, and cost in screws and labor. So, you know, these are things that we professionals look at. And so when these manufacturers are going to lay people, sometimes it does kind of bother me, you know, that these manufacturers are out there selling directly to you guys. I first and foremost think of myself as an advocate. I'm my client's advocate. And I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here because this is my calling in my life, and I know that I can help, and I figured out a way to do it right, and that's why I'm here. I'm not here to sell you anything. You know, this is the best home that you can build. I guarantee it. You know, it might not be right for everybody, but it's really important to have a trusted team that is very knowledgeable to help you navigate all this stuff, because there's a lot of people out there that are gonna feed you a lot of junk. So anyways, I guess I should probably stop.
We had a really good question about schedule, and I think
Okay.
this person is called Mrs. T, which is an amazing username.
Yes, definitely.
So they're curious, for example, if they signed up today, would they be put on a waiting list, and how long of a wait should be expected?
Well, now I said that if you're signing up now, we'll probably be breaking ground in spring. That's got nothing to do with Phoenix. That just has to do with the time it takes to do things. If we were to start next week designing your project with that concept design process, it's very possible that we could have a permit this fall. That's very doable. However, we don't want to break ground in December. We just saw these atmospheric rivers, right? And, that's why our project north wasn't done last month, because we had so much rain, and up there we had snow and we had hail and all this, so the weather's obviously different in Los Angeles, but it's still weather. And so, we don't want to start digging and pouring concrete when every other week we have to worry about rain. So even though, we'd have, I still recommend getting started as soon as possible, because it's always best to get that permit in hand as soon as possible. And there's a code update at the end of the year. So that's another good reason to get on board now, so that we can, as long as you're submitted into plan check before the end of the year, you'll still be under the code regime. Otherwise,
Can I interject, Lori?
say that
Can
again?
I interject really quick?
Yes.
So I handle hundreds of projects across the entire, Western United States, and California is on the caboose as far as the bureaucracy that's involved in building, and so what you guys have been able to do with the process and having your own permitting specialist is just outstanding. I hear and I'm part of projects that are taking 2, 3, 4 years to get through this pipeline. So this year or less is remarkable.
Yeah, and a big part of it is, the expedite programs for the survivors and the rebuild. That's definitely going to speed the process up. But with Adam working in the background behind the scenes, talking to the plan checkers themselves, and we've had building officials attend these webinars too. So, they know about us, and we're going to be in constant contact with them. So, by the time they receive their third Phoenix home, they're going to, okay, we got this. And so, we're definitely going to be able to go through permitting a lot faster. And it really is worth it to, I haven't even looked at the code updates for next year, what they entail, but there's always at least one or two things that on the surface kind of like, no big deal. But then once you start designing, you're like, oh man, that sucks. So it's never like project killer or anything like that. But it's just, if you can, it's really better to get in under the one that we know. The devil you know is better than the devil that you don't, right? So if we get you signed up, I would say getting started from now, let's see, we're mid-March. If we get you started through June, like up until June, we can probably get you a permit before the end of the year. June starts getting a little dicey, but we'd have to go fast. But the time is now to get started now if you want a permit before the end of the year. And then, we just want to wait until weather gets better. We don't want to have to be pouring concrete and pouring rain. So it's just easier to stay on schedule if we know we've got good weather and we can just power through it.
That's another very interesting question that came in, and this is something Lori and I, this came up when we met with some fire survivors a few weeks ago. ADUs are being encouraged as temporary housing on lots. And so they're curious if we have any pre-approved ADUs for City of LA. And I know it's something we've been talking back and forth about, so I thought you could just give some insight of where we're at.
Yeah, we are, we're looking at how to do that. We are looking at that. You know, to be very honest, it, it, it would be impossible for us to come in and just build one ADU. You know, the challenge with a smaller home is that you still have a water heater, you still have an HVAC system, you still have your toilets and, you know, your electrical service and a sewer, and, you know, you have all of the things that a house has, but it's a lot less square footage to spread it out in. So suddenly, instead of that 400, 450 a square foot number that you're looking at, now you're looking at 700 a square foot because it's smaller. And so it's very hard for us to make building one ADU affordable and still be able to survive as a business. But we are looking at ways to possibly do group builds. You know, like I was talking about earlier about these cohorts. You know, as we build up in scale, we're going to be looking at, you know, further subdividing little communities, you know, geographically organizing communities, but also possibly, you know, hey, we've got 8 ADUs in the Altadena rebuild area. So let's strategize to see how we can time that to make it feasible for everybody, not just us, but the survivors most of all. And we do have some plans. They haven't been submitted for like a general approval or anything like that, but it is definitely something we're looking at. So just stay tuned on that one. Put a pin in it. We'll come back to it. As I said, we're problem solvers, so I'm pretty sure we'll figure out something. We'll find a solution.
Well, I believe that's all our questions.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I put a final call out there in the chat. If anyone has a final question, feel free to, you can also email me directly. It's Sarah with an H at phnxdevelopment.com. I'm super happy to answer any questions if you think about it after the fact.
And yeah, and if someone, what are next steps, Sarah? What do we want these folks to do?
Well, next step is I encourage you to reach out to me directly. We can get you a call with our client service director and she can have a quick chat with you on the phone. And then from that point, we'll do a one-on-one consultation. And when you're ready to move forward with a deposit and start the design of your home, that's the next step.
Sounds good. Randy, do you have any last words?
I have only one last word, and that is circling back to let's just all be smarter than the first 2 little pigs.
I agree. I definitely agree. Let's rebuild LA, you know, to be a forever community. You know, let's build it safer and durable, and let's have homes that really last. You know, there is a way to do this. This has been a potential solution for a very long time. It's just that nobody's ever looked at it this way before. That's all, you know. And we were the first, and we will always be the first. And we haven't stopped innovating. We're going to keep innovating and bring it on. You know, we're just going to keep getting better and better and keep innovating and keep building. So I really want to thank everyone for attending today. I know your time is valuable, and you know, we really, our hearts go out to you. They really do. It's you know, it's an honor for me to be able to help you guys recover, and it's an honor and a responsibility that I take extremely seriously. And we'll get you through this. I like to say this is where hope begins. There is a silver lining. You're going to have a brand new home, and we can help you work through. I mean, there are loads of things you loved about your previous home, but there were probably some things you didn't like too. And so, look at it that way, and we can help you build a real, true forever home that is totally yours, 100% yours. So I'd really like to wish you guys a wonderful evening and good luck. And thank you so much, Randy Daniels from Fox.
Thank you, Randy. Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us. And our next webinar, I'm not sure yet who we're going to have, but we're going to have, it'll be another vendor, one of our partners. And so keep in touch, keep tabs on us, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, everyone.